All right, welcome along to another episode of the DePIN Coffee Hour, where you can gain insights into decentralized space while simultaneously consuming the ultimate chad of all tasty beverages, coffee. Now a health food by all accounts, as it turns out. Mouth-watering awesomeness of coffee aside, a few quick points before I bring on our guests here today. First, on today's show, we will be giving away 30,000 HVLO to the best questions asked during the stream. So if at any point you have a question you'd like to ask one of our guests, fire it into the comments, and one of my team will put it up on the screen. Also, we're live on X, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So wherever you're catching us, please go ahead and click the follow or subscribe button. Show us some love. It costs nothing, and it helps us a lot. And who knows, it may even help your great aunt, Teresa, who needs some juicy DePIN income, if not today or tomorrow, sometime down the road. If only she knew about the possible passive income opportunities, in fact, like renting out her unused computer resources. Also, just in case you missed it, we are going to be giving away, or I should say airdropping 50 million HVLO tokens to the users of Havelo. Something very simple. You just have to install the node and run it essentially, and then you'll begin to accumulate points, which will be converted shortly after the day that we take the snapshot. So if you haven't given that a try already, I would encourage you to go ahead and give it a whirl. So with all that said, and the stage now set, I would love to welcome back to the DePIN Coffee Hour our friend from DePIN Connection, Bradley, Nico from Ape Wealth, and Val from Foreverland. Hello, gentlemen.
Morning.
Hey. Hello.
Just to kick things off, to get us into the groove, if we're just going to go around the table there, maybe Brad, to you first, and then Nico, and then Val. Just tell us a little bit about how you got into DePIN, I suppose.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so it's second time being on the show. The last time I was back in St. Louis, I was in front of a pool. This time I'm back in my normal studio. Yeah, so I think like a lot of people in DePIN, I actually got in from Helium in the early days, and started out being a small scale deployer. Ended up building out a deployment business where I ended up setting up about 70 rooftop installs. So that kind of started my journey in DePIN, and then figured I should look at other projects I could maybe do something similar with. So hopped on HiveMapper very, very early on and built out a fleet of about 100 Uber and Lyft drivers across the US, down into South America, and then did kind of a similar thing with Demo, and then started up a YouTube channel from there on, with tutorials on how to set up businesses within DePIN. And then that kind of grew to where really interview a lot of different project founders. I do several standing DePIN spaces on X. I host one as well on Tuesdays. I'll be bringing like Mike Horton on from GeoNet later today. And I do daily live streams where I do really macro news all the way down to really focused DePIN news on a daily basis. And then Thursday nights I do DePIN happy hour with a few other people in the DePIN space, where we bring on a lot of founders from across the DePIN space as well.
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. And I'm glad I don't have to be jealous about your pool vibes on this episode. Because seriously, guys, I cannot tell you how bad the weather is in this country. Ireland is just the worst, weather-wise. What about you, Nico? Where are you based? Are you in Switzerland?
I'm in Switzerland. Yes.
Yeah.
Summer started out great, but now it's just raining.
Okay.
So it's also not the nicest weather at the moment here, unfortunately. Hopefully it gets a bit better, but it doesn't look like that.
At least you've come out.
Exactly. At least we have them out. Yeah. So I mean, I've been in the Web3 space since 2015, out of Switzerland as well. Maybe you guys heard about the Crypto Valley, and essentially, started or built up as a first employee with CVVC, CV Labs, kind of the ecosystem of the Crypto Valley and the venture capital arm out here of Switzerland in the Web3 space. Came in contact very early with a lot of smaller DePINs projects. It was always kind of flying around, and then since the last couple of years, it really kind of picked up. The whole topic got more interesting, more juicy, and people are actually using that. And currently we're looking for projects to invest in, to launch. But then here I'm as well with A12. A12 is essentially something that we build now out of experience from using other Quest platform, working with portfolio companies. It's a lot of bots. It's just like everybody's just kind of imploding their social media channels with botted users, and people are not using projects anymore, right? They're not in front of the applications anymore. And like for us is like we built this Quest platform to really kind of bring real users, right? Obviously a smaller amounts than like the other Quest platform promising to bring, but KYC users that actually want to use different projects. And then I think for DePIN, that's also something super interesting. People, joining the Web3 space, join crypto. I think DePIN is also a good way to kind of get to learn about crypto, and using kind of what is actually possible in the space. And so that's why I'm super excited about the DePIN space personally.
Yeah, I could just say, because I've looked into Ape Wealth a bit, and also as somebody who's a CMO, obviously we've tested all of the questing platforms. What you guys are doing is really cool, and maybe we'll dig into that a bit more kind of next time around. But yeah, I just think it's really cool, and there's definitely some differentiators there that set it apart, which I think are excellent, especially if you've got something like a DePIN application or some other type of application that's a bit more, you're not just looking to get like Twitter follows or whatever. So yeah.
No, absolutely not. I mean, that's not the goal, right? I mean, people still want to make build a business, right? And business is with real users and not just like some
social followers
people,
and bots.
social media followers and bots, exactly.
Yeah. Val, what's your backstory and what are you working on?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for the invitation. Really happy to be here with you guys. So yeah, I'm global marketing head at Prevalent. We are, let's say, DPM, which became like a project which became DPN before DPN emerged. Like as you know, the term was
Sorry,
coined.
gave us the name. Yeah.
It's called Prevalent. Yeah, I mean the project itself. So as you know, it was 2023, as I remember. It was Messari's research on top of promising technologies at that time, and they coined up the term DePIN, decentralized physical infrastructure. And actually, we were among the first batch of the projects that were mentioned by the Messari report at that time. So yeah, what we're building is Web3 cloud computing platform. Let's say something similar to AWS, maybe Google Cloud, but we do a little bit differently with them, because mostly we focus on decentralized storage, decentralized hosting, decentralized gateways to access the content. While those folks, they mostly built on top of centralized servers, centralized technologies, as you know, like AWS Lambda and so on and so forth. So what we do, and also we have like a principle of aggregation in our project for Avalon. So what we are not trying to create some product or maybe project to store all the data of the internet on top of it and just make money with that. We see ourselves as a neutral technology, which is trying to help the folks who need to join Web3 pretty quickly. I mean, developers mostly, and need some platforms to bootstrap their building process. Like for instance, you're a developer, you want to, I don't know, store the data, and you need the space to do that. Okay, welcome to Fort Evelyn. That's possible to do with us. And yeah, we've been building for quite a while. Got interesting use cases of how folks utilizing us. Like we've got they are voting when folks from snapshots storing the data on top of Prevalence IPFS and access the data because data is voting. It's voting data is a little bit, if you change the data, it would lead to some issues within DAOs. We also have folks from ZK community who are utilizing Prevalence to storing the ZK proofs on top of us. So yeah, there are lots of use cases how you could utilize Prevalent. So definitely happy to be with you guys today and discuss the DePIN. Thank you.
Yeah, I think obviously it's always interesting in the space to see different technologies support each other, like you're saying about ZK proofs or ZK proofs, as we'd say here. But I'm just curious, just to touch on something you said about decentralized hosting gateways and that kind of thing. Do you say I'm a web developer and I have an agency that just builds websites all day long? We build like 100 websites a year. We do hosting, like we need to host them and all that kind of thing. Is that something? Am I a suitable candidate for your platform? Could I go to Foreverland and be like, "This is my new home. I don't need AWS anymore"?
Yeah, why not?
Right.
So
I'm just wondering, would I though? I suppose my question is, would I? Like, is it comparative in terms of the experience and the cost and all that kind of thing?
I gotcha. So there are use cases when developers need decentralization comparing with if you compare with centralized protocols. Like for instance, you've got, because actually your question is about that, like why Forever? Why not anything else? So for instance, you are, let's say, have the NFT collection, and you've got the metadata for NFT collection, which could be stored on top of AWS. And if you do so, it's probably easier for hacker, or if you have some bad mind, let's say, you can change the metadata with any content that you have, because the URL link would be the same. And it's possible to do. There were cases when folks did that. And yeah, if you do that with IPFS, it won't be possible because there would be the CID content ID, and the hash which is being generated. It exists only in one variant, so it cannot be reduplicated. It's one of the use cases. So it's like pretty technical stuff. With ZK, so yeah, we have several projects who are storing the ZK proofs, and to do that, they either use Arweave, which is a layer 1 blockchain, to store information on top of they have the network of nodes, but one of the features of them that all the data is being reduplicated like 200 times. So they say that, like for instance, if you store anything on top of Arweave, it would be stored forever. So what we did, we implemented Arweave protocol into our platform, and then you can access the Arweave, because it's pretty tough for non-developer to utilize that. And ZK protocols, they use the Arweave protocol to store the ZK proofs. So coming back to your question regarding if it is a new home, I'm not sure whether it's your home, because I'm not sure about your aims, like what you're, I don't know, if you are building like project which does not need decentralization, maybe not. But if you're Web3 developer and you want to and you have like the use cases that are, you know, and the needs that are fitting those assets and services that we have at Prevalent, why not?
Sure.
What else? And also,
Yeah, I mean,
Nexus swaps the same. There was a case in 2023 when Andrew Crony, the head of more than a dozen of taxes and swaps. Yeah. He left the industry.
Did everybody else lose Val, or is it just me?
No, he froze.
Oh gosh. Guys, can you hear me? I'm still here with you. I'm trying to do something with my internet connection. Sorry, guys.
Okay, no worries. The reason I was asking the question really was because I'm always fascinated where the line is between like adoption, really, an adoption line between decentralization and centralized solutions. Because I suppose my curiosity stems from, is DePIN in the future? And this is one of the reasons I was actually quite excited about this episode because of you three guys and your particular points of view on it. The question I suppose that I'm always trying to answer is, like, in terms of adoption, is DePIN only ever going to really serve decentralized solutions, things that need to be censorship resistant, need to be decentralized, or is there a world where it actually crosses over and things that, and just becomes just a better or more efficient or maybe more cost efficient solution for things that we now, like the centralized incumbents now serve, markets that they serve at the moment? Like, for example, my web design agency example was a silly one, but it was just supposed to, I suppose, just illustrate a very bog standard kind of traditional type of business that would have used AWS, because you had said AWS. So it sounds like what I'm hearing you say is that probably at the moment it's probably more suitable for, like a business that would need to sit on something that's a bit more censorship resistant, a bit more permissionless, and or for whatever reason needs some of the benefits of decentralized infrastructure. Is that a fair comment?
How to say? I think if you look at the way how the technology evolves and the way how things are developing, of course we could say that why you thought you need decentralization is just nonsense. It's just a useless spending of time and money because it's not that efficient. But it won't exist. I mean, the decentralization of the things, and probably we would not gather today if we did not do anything. I mean, as an industry, let's say humanity, if we did not do anything in this sphere. So, to my mind, in the future, we will probably we'll see a better version of the coexistence of decentralized and centralized technologies, because I don't think that decentralization is not only a part of the technology itself. So, for instance, I mentioned several use cases where Foreverland could be utilized, but there is also the essence of the of the culture, probably, because initially the crypto industry and it started from the culture, from cyberpunk movement, etc. So you cannot we probably won't be able to see when decentralization will end up, but we'll probably see coexistence. And in my mind, there would be part of internet which would be more decentralized, more efficient in some use cases, but definitely it won't be like Forever for everyone, or let's say Bitcoin for everyone, or Ethereum for everyone.
Okay.
But yeah, only welcome to.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I would say maybe a similar answer. I mean, I believe it will be kind of in the future more hybrid model, right? But look at the Web3 space. I mean, we always say we're fairly new technology, but at the end, it's now already been a while since we have the Bitcoin network and the smart contracts, and now after now a few years, see all the banks adopting in the financial industry, right? You see using stable coins, getting there, right? So I think it's just the adoption time that takes time. And then use cases as well, right? So use cases need to be then maybe a bit more adapt. But my belief is you will see a hybrid model, right? The same is with digital currency, as well said, right? So if the digital currency, not everybody will be using digital currency. Maybe in 50, 60 years, it will be looking a bit different, right? But like kind of more in the near future, I think it's just kind of finding different use cases, and then kind of reaching into the more Web2 world, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's funny. We talk about this with Flux quite a bit. Flux has been around for like 8 years. Also, by the way, Val, I love Arweave. It's like my top storage play by far, man. It's a phenomenal project. I put out a lot of videos on Arweave. I think it's like flying under the radar so much for what they're doing. So love that you guys integrated that. But yeah, I think it's going to take time. I agree with the hybrid thing. I think you're going to see Web2 entities start to add some of these decentralized features into their operations. But I think we also need to get to a point where we stop talking about decentralize this and make it like a user experience that's on par with their centralized experience. And then we talk about the features and the benefits of going through having something that doesn't have the same vulnerabilities, right, to hacks by being on a centralized server. Something that has better uptime, right? You talk about the amount of money these companies lose when AWS has downtime. And you can start talking about those types of features and really, I guess put like a dollar amount to it as far as why your solution's better, and then make the user experience that much easier. I think we're going to see more and more adoption, but we also need to see more adoption within the Web3 space, because one of the dirty little secrets about DePIN right now is that a lot of DePIN projects are using AWS. They're not using the decentralized protocols that we have available to them today. So I think we need to start getting our own projects to fully switch over and become decentralized, and then we could start really looking at bringing Web 2 customers in. But we are seeing the bridge to Web 2. I mean, there are projects working with Web 2 customers today, which is great to see.
Yeah. That's a really, really good point. Really, really good point. I wanted to ask you something actually, Bradley, just to touch on something that you said in your intro about, good web or starting kind of DePIN businesses. And I'm kind of curious. It's still obviously very early days, I think, for DePIN. I know revenues are a little bit all over the place because of the chicken and egg that a lot of networks have, where they're trying to scale up and they're trying to solve supply and demand at the same time. In your opinion, what does a good DePIN business look like in 2025? Like, if I'm just Joe Blogs, who could be watching this right now, looking to make a few quid, obviously they should run a Havelo node. But aside from the obvious running a Havelo node, what would you recommend, or what do you think is good right now?
100% double down on the Havelo node, especially if you guys doing that airdrop. That's like free money. And I do have at the top of my profile, I have a video posted with, I cover like 30 different DePIN projects. They're all like timestamps, so you can click around. But Havelo is one of the projects I talked about.
Nice.
Look, as far as setting up a business as a deployer, there are several things that I would consider. Number one is the project viable? Okay, you have to, for any DePIN project, you have to look at what's the total addressable market that they're tapping into, and then are they differentiated enough to grab market share? Because I think we're finally getting to a point where this space is getting mature enough that the revenue matters. All right, it's not just a hype cycle anymore. If you want to have like long-term viability, and then the second thing is, what's the ideal participant? Okay, so is this something that you can only do on a one-off. Like, can you host a node at your house, but is it going to be really hard to then, duplicate that with other people? Because let's be real, if someone has a computer at home, they get on the Havelo, they don't really need you. Okay. So I think it's, I'll use Hive Mapper as an example. You put a dash cam in your windshield, you collect imagery, the more you drive, the more money you make. But the barrier to entry is that you have to buy a dash cam, right? And then learn a little bit about crypto in order to participate, setting up a wallet, all that. So I made myself valuable by investing in the hardware, and again, identifying the best participant, which in this case, Uber and Lyft drivers came to mind because they're on the road a lot. And then I made it really easy for them by setting up, wallets with them, teaching them kind of a crypto 101, and giving them assistance and if they wanted to cash out, etc. And then kind of act as a support line, because that's one thing people don't talk about enough is it is an early space. Not everything goes flawlessly, right? I mean, you have to look at the way I look at this is you're investing in startups. And with that, you have to roll with the punches a little bit, and not everything's going to be perfect. You're, by acting as a support line or customer support, if you will, I think that's the only way it works. So, to answer your question, like something like Havelo, I would do on my own. I think it'd be hard to build a business off of. I introduce it to other people, but something like Hive Mapper, where there is a barrier to entry and you can bring value to the equation, I think that's something you can actually build a business out with. And that's kind of how I look at it. So,
right.
And then there's different levels to this. Like you can be what I would call a hobbyist, where you do all this stuff on your own. You set up, maybe wing bits and GeoNet on your roof. Then there's, I'd say, small scale deployer, where you do it with friends and family, people that you talk to on a daily basis. And then large scale deployers, where you're actually going out and hunting, hosts, right, and you're doing this at scale. So there's different levels to it, but I think everyone should at least look at being a hobbyist, because it's super easy to do on your own and it can bring in some additional income.
Which level would allow me to buy a Lambo? Semi-serious question.
Win alt season. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't, I think we need.
Are we
that's
we need more time, do we?
I think we need a little bit more time. I think also this is something that we talk about a lot is one of the biggest hurdles, I think, with DePIN projects is that we still have this altcoin mindset where people want to get rich overnight. And I think we need to shift that mindset a bit and look at this as being like, hey, these are legitimate businesses. It's going to take time. Stop looking at this as like, okay, as a 4-year market cycle play. If you have VCs that are looking to have their tokens unlock in 2 to 3 years. And I think we need to get away from that short-term-ism mindset and look at this as more like, okay, we need these to be long-term viable. And we need people that are looking at these as actual businesses and looking at this as a longer-term play, not like win Lambo next year.
Yeah. No, 100%. So it's kind of, there's quite a tongue-in-cheek comment, actually. Yeah. Nico, I saw you nodding agreements quite a bit there with what Bradley was saying. Do you want to add anything to that about the startup investment?
No, I think that's just not just in the DePIN space. That's the whole Web3 space, right? I think also looking, not finger pointing at anybody, but looking at VC front running the retailers, at the end, just making cash. I mean, at the end, yes, they need to do cash, but they invest in a vision in founders, right? And then, pulling out liquidity from the market, which then again hurts the whole market because you don't get new people in, because all the new people get burned, and then they actually don't learn about actually the good stuff that, people in the space, in the DePIN space are building, which is beneficial for for a lot of businesses at the end, right? In the Web2 space, right? All the innovation that could come out of here, and I think that's something, hopefully the ecosystem evolves a bit out of this kind of whole mindset and gets more kind of, hey, look, let's try to like in 2017, 18, 19, where kind of innovation was a bit, in my opinion, was more coming up than like in the last cycle, I would say. And this is just the mindset I would wish that the ecosystem kind of evolves a bit into, hey, let's build something, right? But the beauty is you still can earn money, right? And not getting rich, but you can still earn money, and that's, you need to think about it. It's actually crazy. You're using a product, you helping to build this product in some sense, right? Depending, how the product is built up, but you give out valuable information, and earn money, right? Using it and earning money. By the way, I think that sounds quite interesting, right? So sometimes you don't need to be rich, but earning a bit is also not too bad, I would say.
100%, 100%. It's so funny how Web3 kind of, you've been in the scene for a while, it sort of starts to warp your sense of like what value is, because it's like you buy tokens or whatever, and the numbers just get silly, and then you start to think about things like, well, when you have the context of other things. So, for example, like solar panels. In Ireland, solar panels, you're going to spend 10K to put solar panels on your roof. To do what? Reduce your electricity bill by €100 a month. So there's I just think when you've been in Web3 for a while, it sort of tends to distort your sense of value, particularly relative to other things. And if you can earn a DePIN income where it's offsetting part of the electricity cost, or it's offsetting a different cost in your life, it's just another revenue stream that can help things along, I guess. This is a question that actually was framed for you, Brad, but I think actually probably everybody could answer this, because I think it's a really interesting question. Maybe it's more interesting for me in a marketing capacity, but just especially because I love tokenomics and talking about tokens and incentives and all that kind of stuff. But can you talk about the idea of revenue before TGE and how we're seeing more of that in DePIN projects now, maybe than a year ago and then 2 years ago and so on?
Yeah, I think the idea that we have revenue at all compared to like 4 years ago is a difference. I mean, that was, if you remember, helium in the early days caught a lot of flack. I think it was frankly overvalued at the time because they didn't have that much revenue. So, but it is a good question. I mean, it's something we're seeing. Daba Network is building out Wi-Fi in India. They have a lot of revenue coming through the door already. 375 AI is another one that has revenue coming through that hasn't had TGE. Deep Networks, another one. I mean, it's certainly a shift. And I don't know that it's like 100% necessary. And in some cases, it might not be, because it really depends on the project. There are certain projects that's going to take longer to turn on revenue. I mean, that's just the bottom line. I think as long as there is a path to revenue, the project founders are very clear on what that path looks like. That's the main thing, because something we have seen in this space, unfortunately, and I think we're seeing less of, is that there are certain projects that were more focused on selling hardware and making margin on hardware rather than the actual business case behind it. And we saw a lot of that kind of in the last market cycle more. But I think now the main thing is like, is there a path to revenue, and will they get there in a timely fashion? Because otherwise, if you're just handing out tokens to sell hardware, your project's going to fail if there is no clear path.
Yeah. Nico, Val, do you guys want to?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think when DePIN projects kind of like continuing, to grow and start generating revenue before the full network launches. I think it's just then a more stable and sustainable growth than launching the network before that. But you also need to see. I know it's a trend at the moment, and that kind of it goes that way. I think it's something you also don't, for example, do an IPO before you do before the company does any revenue at the end. But TGE in the space and going live is as well kind of using the whole network as full potential in a broader way. Which is then necessary, and as well kind of obviously also a way to raise funds as well. I think I can't support it because it's just kind of more sustainable growth overall. in the ecosystem, and that's how I see it.
Right.
Yeah, you also, I think you prevent your TGE from being an epic failure sometimes, because if you have no revenue and you give out a lot of tokens, you really just have sell pressure. You have nothing to offset that sell pressure.
That's absolutely true. Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
Yeah.
so I agree with you being sustainable. Sorry, Val, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, I just recall the Neil's just question, like which DePIN to build if you're a chill guy, chill boss. I'm just thinking that like even our project is not that easy to do, and definitely have to have like a model whenever it is physically decentralized with the hardware itself, or it's more in the software. It's in a software way, but definitely there should be the business model, because making money just from DGs, like I think it's not working right now. Just not even in the
Mhm.
independent area, but mostly in the whole Web3 sphere. But yeah, definitely there should be the model which is working and which is bringing money to the project. Otherwise, it's just dead end. Definitely.
100% agree with that. Like founders who are thinking, we'll do a TG and we'll raise a bunch of cash. I think those days are gone. It's so hard now to actually end up net like positive, I suppose, from a TG, because of the amount of capital that you have to put into liquidity requirements for the exchanges, listing fees, and all the marketing just to successfully do the TG in the first place. I mean, it's just, the numbers are staggering. So yeah, I 100% agree with that. Let's see here. I have a bunch of questions from people I was going to ask.
I was going to say the centralized exchanges, their listing fees are so ridiculous, and as you get into as the market cycles move upward too, as you kind of have a bull run, they charge. I've heard 10 to 15% of token supply in some cases. It is absolutely crazy. That's why I think you'll see more and more launch on DEXs until you have enough trading volume, and they'll move to centralized exchanges. But the centralized exchanges have gotten super greedy, frankly.
Yeah.
Centralized exchanges. Yeah. I mean, I think they always have been. It's a sort of a supply and demand issue, but I mean, it's just a money printing business, essentially, because they charge you a listing fee. They give you all these requirements that are really challenging. Then you have to provide liquidity as well. Oftentimes you have to employ a market maker as a project. It's just, as a project, you're not going to be the one that's going to come out of that on top in terms of cash. That's for sure. Everybody else is going to make money. So just looking at some of the questions from the audience that I might just dip into, if that's all right. Bob asks, what makes Foreverland different from other storage-related DePINs? And when I say Bob, I mean Bob the question machine gun, because he is by far the most engaged person so far, it seems like, in this stream.
Yeah, thanks for the question. And actually, that's pretty interesting because, we've been in the space for quite a while. So if you compare Foreverland, so probably you should recall projects that are currently not even building. I mean, the storage part of the thing. Like we had in 2021 Flick and Fura. What else? NFT storage or something. It sounds something like that. I've forgotten their name. But yeah, a couple of those projects stopped building in the storage way, and continued with maybe some AI, maybe some other aspects. But we still continued because we have customers who are interested in our solutions. So, but I think the most important differences in the principle of aggregation, which I mentioned just from the beginning. We're not trying to build protocol which would become infrastructure for all the internet. Instead of that, building some platform which would aggregate different approaches. Different, like for instance, we've got IPFS, we've got how we've been the chains, greenfield definities, ICP, and also thinking about other protocols to implement into our protocol. So through aggregation, you probably are receiving the opportunity to choose one of the one of the protocols which fits best your needs, and start utilizing that, but not only using one protocol or maybe some storage solution. And so we were giving you choice, and we do not want to like put you into in conditions when you do not have any choice and you just ought to you have to utilize one protocol. We don't think so. That neutrality in building infrastructure, I think, is the most important thing of the Forever team and our identity and how we see ourselves. But yeah, great question. Thank you.
I think this is one for everybody or anybody who wants to take it. Why are storage nodes lagging significantly behind compute, GPU, and CPU nodes in terms of the rewards for the node runners? I certainly, it seems like at the moment, kind of GPU, AI focused GPU nodes pay better rewards. Maybe that's just obviously my point of view on that is colored very much by Havelo and what we can see at our end. I'm just curious if you guys have a different perspective or a different understanding, I suppose. Anyone want to take that? No? Just me?
I mean, I don't. I would imagine that maybe there's a supply and demand dynamic in what you can charge for the decentralized compute. But
Yeah,
I'm not versus storage. I'm not, but I'm not really sure why. Other than that, I mean, that would make sense to me.
Yeah, and I think as well, this is the thing with DePIN, right? There's so much variation there's so many variables in terms of the things that can impact what your rewards are. So, for example, Mysterium, which is one of the DePINs in Havelo, their token price is just basically rock solid. It's like it's pegged to something. It just doesn't fluctuate at all. In terms of the rewards there, they're pretty steady, and they spike when you get a demand situation, like evolving in a particular geography, for example. I'm not sure with storage. I'm not even actually entirely sure if storage is lagging behind across all of the storage networks versus all of the CPUs or GPUs, and when you try to average it out and all the rest of that kind of stuff. But I would say it's probably a supply and demand thing because, there's a lot of demand right now for GPU with AI. Do you have any feeling on that, Val? Or
I totally agree. I think there is also another thing is like hype, because our industry still heavily relies on hype. I mean, in terms of the market and how it, how users are behaving. So we should understand how it works in order to utilize it for our projects, for our business, and for business models. So yeah, I think CPU and GPU are just pretty hyping right now. I mean, like as a sub industry in Web3, while storage was kind of the same, but it was 2019, 2018 probably. So there was now Filecoin, as I remember, which also had like a network of nodes, and lots of people were joining the network just to get some get some rewards by storing the data. But later it became not that cool. I don't know, sexy. Right now it's the turn of the GPU and CPU. But let's say maybe in a couple of years there would be another concept, and we would see almost the same process. So it's like it's like waves. Yeah. So you just it's just pretty normal. I think so.
It's hard to. It fluctuates so much. I mean, you guys are integrated with Asana, and Asana is
Yeah.
a great example of this. Like, we went from in November of 2023 is at 2 cents, then it went up to $7.40, and since December is at $4. Now it's down to like 50. It's down 90% just since December. So I think you also have to look at the fluctuations, and I agree, Val, with the hype. I mean, some of this stuff, like getting up to $7.40. I mean, from 2 cents in 6 months, that's absolute hype around the AI concept and narrative for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the point that I was trying to allude to, is that there's more variables than just demand and supply, because of the fact that you're earning in this native token. So, and that's fluctuating all over the place. So it has its own sort of microcosm of supply and demand forces working on it, or supply, demand, and hype, I suppose. Okay. Another question. Again, I feel like this could be for anybody really, but Brad, what do you think is an acceptable payback period for DePIN hardware projects? I'm assuming Bob is talking about something like Helium or some other hardware device kind of based project.
Yeah, it's
or possibly one where you have to make a stake, but you have to put up cash anyway.
It's such a good question, and it's one of those examples of where we are so disconnected from the real world. I mean, you think about how people outside of crypto, like their ROI, if they're in, ROIs in a couple of years, they're like, oh, that's a pretty good investment. Here, we're like, if it's not a month, where people get disenfranchised. I think for one, it depends on how big the investment is, but also how early stage the project is. Because if you're an early investor, just like in any business, you're taking on more risk. So I think in many cases, you're going to expect a better ROI than a project that's more solidified, that's been around for a while. For me, if I'm getting it in, under a year, that's great. A lot of early stage projects are ROIing in like a month, but we also need to realize that that's not sustainable. That's not a business model you can't have a 1 month ROI forever. In the early stages, maybe to get your network up and running. But the other problem here is that like there's so many variables, like we just talked about. The market cycles, unfortunately, DePIN in general, right? I think because we're still so early, we haven't fully decoupled from the rest of crypto and the rest of altcoins. I think eventually we'll see more and more of a decoupling, but your ROI might be a month this month and next month be 2 years because of the fluctuations in price. So it's such a hard question to answer. So for me, I'm really looking at, especially early stage projects. Okay, what's my investment look like? Knowing that there's risk there, and under a year is great, under 6 months is fantastic, but just know that like nothing's guaranteed in this space, and I think over time we'll see the ROIs get drawn out a little bit further, and I think that's healthy for this space, really.
Okay. Yeah, I agree about the ROI, the time to ROI. Nico, just from the VC point of view, I know you guys are a bit more, Crypto Valley is a bit more, I would say less mercenary, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have been involved with projects where the VCs were like completely like deadpan, thought it was totally cool to like de-risk their initial investment sort of like 3 months in. So, that sort of crazy behavior. Anyway, what do you think in terms of VCs and funding and that side of things? And do you think VCs are taking that kind of view as well, or are they looking for much quicker or much longer? I know it seems to have gone just from tokens to more equity now.
Yeah, so we have been I would say 95% equity or 90% equity what we did, right? You could argue, yes, we could have maybe made more money, and then getting everything out when token launched, which I still wouldn't be a fan of, because I think you will be hurting a project, especially if you're a bigger investor, and at the end it's nice to make a quick buck, right? But I think it's nicer in the long run to make, a sustainable amount of money together with the project, right? That's how I kind of see it. But then as retail investor, obviously that's a different viewpoint, I guess. It also depends, I think in crypto, retail investors, there's a lot of investors that, they invest money that they might not have, right, to invest in. So it's kind of essential that they get at least the money back, which a lot of times doesn't happen, especially now because, as we discussed before, it's not easy to launch a project and kind of hold the price, right, currently. And I think that's a bit of a problem, right? And as well as Brad said, in our space mindset, everything's just so fast. You can make so much money overnight and so on, right? Which happens, right? But then reality is a bit different. And there, I think we just need to be a bit patient, because if then the team really tries and you believe in the project, you can make a much higher return on investment. And I think it's good because you also hurt the project, right? If everybody's like selling off, you hurt the project because they also have treasury in their tokens and so on. But then that's also a different view, because I'm also kind of like, I'm really a lot, I have a mindset founder, so I'm also kind of always on this side rather than on a retail investor side. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think everything's changing a bit currently. I think also more VCs are now looking in the space, are looking into equity, getting more equity as of tokens, and then also projects. I think they will be listing differently, and good projects then as well have different terms. I think in the near future, right, which then kind of locks you in a bit longer.
Yeah. Do you think, just as a sort of last kind of topic, do you think ideal launchpads are? Do you guys have any opinions on launchpads, like whether they're going to survive? Because I know they've gone through a lot of different kind of iterations. Maybe we just haven't seen the latest iteration yet, but it just seemed like, like when we did an IDO at the start of this year, so I think it's the fourth one that I've gone through of a public token sale, and some of the conditions, that the launchpads have nowadays it seems like are very, very heavily biased towards the retail investor, which in one sense is good, but it just makes it completely untenable from a project point of view. So I'm just curious if you guys have any thoughts on that, or.
Yeah, I mean, we also have a launchpad, right? It's as well maybe a smaller one, and not as like we don't take allocations of like 500,000 plus and so on, right? And what I realized, or what we kind of had to almost implement, is kind of this refund policy, which I think is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to a casino and you put it on black and breadcrumbs, you don't get the money back, right? I mean, that's
what I'm talking about. Right? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, though.
Insane.
A lot of the platforms have that now, where it's like if the price of the token doesn't go up by like 4x or something within 48 hours, they can just claim a refund.
Yeah, and I think that's a bit crazy. Not sure how long this will be sustaining, right? If this ecosystem doesn't adjust to it. But the problem is there's a competition, because you're a competition for retail investors, right? Because a lot of retail investors got burned, and they think now it's free money and you can get refunds, and then you don't want to implement it, but you cannot get then these retail investors in, right? Then you can also not sell out to your allocation, which is another problem, right? So it's kind of like a spiral, downward spiral. Yeah.
Tough business for sure.
I think it will kind of pick up again. It's the important thing is just I think we need to get back in time a bit on thinking on how to make money at the end here. and don't be too greedy. And then, hopefully it works again and attracts new investors in, right? That's kind of what I hope for at the end.
Yeah. Okay, cool. This is one more very serious question someone asked here. I'm just going to see if I can find it. Here we go. Brad, this is for you. What's the candle scent of the day, Brad? I guess that's from one of your audiences, my guess.
It has to be, yeah. I have candles in my background. Normally during my live streams, I'm sitting down, so I have candles back there.
Okay.
I don't have any lit today. I don't have any lit today, but I'll have my live stream at probably 1:30 this afternoon. So we'll see. We'll have something going for that.
All right, guys. Listen, we've just hit the top of the hour, so I just want to say a huge thank you to you all for being here and having the chat. Maybe if you just want to go around the horn and just tell people where they can follow you, find more out about what you're working on and all that good stuff. Brad, do you want to go first, and then Nico, and then Val?
For sure. Yeah. So definitely follow me on X. And I put out, I'm on, I think, 5 different standing DePIN focus spaces every week. So I put out a lot of reminders about that. I have one today, and let's see, 2.5 hours where I'll have Mike Horton from GeoNet, the founder, on. We'll be discussing DePIN. So if you can, check that out. And then definitely check out my YouTube channel, because I stream to that every day, but also I put out a lot of DePIN focused videos that don't necessarily always get to X. So I have some different stuff on there. A lot of overviews of different DePIN projects, a lot of interviews with project founders. So a lot of good info on there. So if you're looking to get into DePIN, definitely follow me on both platforms.
Awesome. Thank you.
You can find me on X as Nico and Jules. And then we have, different verticals, right? So the VC side is CVVC, CV Labs, and then the launchpad is called CVPad. And then, looking for airdrops and getting to know, projects and learning about them. Check out Ape Wealth as well.
Yeah, big shout out for Ape Wealth from me as well, because I think if you're a CMO and you're looking to do kind of that questing type of thing, that sort of performance marketing, definitely worth a look.
Thanks.
Well,
yeah, and for evidence, you could find on any social platform that you are used to, like, I don't know, Twitter, Telegram, Discord, anything. We exist on all those platforms. We post lots of, product updates, some campaigns that we also launch. So if you're a developer, especially, you're warmly welcome to try it out. Try Prevalent, try to build a project, or if you're just an ordinary user, you also could utilize Prevalent, because we've got lots of interesting stuff happening in our project. Also, you could try our storage, you could try our AI ops. It's also pretty interesting. So yeah. Thanks for the invitation. Really happy to be here. Really interesting discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you all for joining us today. And a huge thank you to, of course, everybody who has joined us and is viewing the stream today and through all of our other episodes. For next week's show, feel free to smash a follow or a subscribe link. And I said at the very start that we would give away some HVLO tokens to the people with the best questions. One of my team has told me that the winners are Bob and Airdrop Hunter. I think you guys are both from our community. So just touch base with us in Discord, or you can DM us on X. So that's it for today. If you haven't tried Havelo already, it's very simple. It takes about 2 minutes to install. Go to havelo.com and you'll find out all the details that you need. Until next week, have a great week, and we'll see you then.